In today's Gospel from Luke 11, we read, "This generation is an evil generation. It seeks a sign, but no sign will be given it, except the sign of Jonah." Jesus had driven out a demon in the verses preceding this exhortation about evil generation. Some people in the crowd stated he had done so by the power of Beelzebub, the prince of demons, while others asked for a sign from heaven. I can only try to imagine how Jesus must have felt following their comments. His response, "This generation is an evil generation," leads me to believe that he's frustrated and annoyed and definitely saddened by their unbelief. His words seem intended to grab their attention. "Hey, listen up, open your eyes, or you will suffer the consequences of your unbelief." Why were some crowd members blind to the miracles standing in their midst? Were they unfamiliar with the prophecies? What might be some of the reasons that they rejected Jesus? And how important is hope to our faith life and our trust in God? I imagine that the doubts of some people were driven by the fear of repercussions from the brutal Roman authorities if Jesus proved to be another false prophet. Their thinking might have been, "I will believe if he performs the miracle that I want." This sort of attitude is humanity trying to manipulate, barter with, or otherwise control God. Perhaps others in the crowd, weighted down by many years in difficult circumstances, no longer trusted God's promise of a Messiah. For yet others, they might have allowed idols like wealth, social status, intellect, etc., to displace trust in God. Perhaps some were fixated on a particular vision of the Messiah to the exclusion of all else. The reason for doubting who Jesus was varied, but the roots of unbelief stem from emotions like fear and hopelessness. These negative feelings push out hope, closing our minds to the reality that God chooses how to answer prayers, even if in impossible circumstances. Without hope, we fail to see the little ones that God chooses, such as a young virgin, a devoted husband, and a small child. We can't imagine God selecting non-believers, Ninevites, to show us what it looks like to live with unconditional hope in God. Reading the gospel stories and being critical of those who could not see Jesus is easy, especially since we have the resurrection testimonies. Still, even today, despite having the benefit of hindsight, anyone can lose hope because we are not that different from the people in Jesus' time. Life is often difficult. The world is messy, and the problems are too big to understand, much less solve. Some days, it might feel like the harder we strive for justice, the more discord and injustice fill the earth. At any time in our faith journey, life's challenges can result in fear, doubt, and disbelief creeping in, attempting to convince us to lose hope. And yet, hope is a basic need of the human person. Hope is the emotion that drives us to turn to God, no matter what difficulties arise. A hopeful interior stance helps us to see and accept what is. Unconditional hope leaves room for God to respond as God deems appropriate, and prayer is what leads us forward in hope. Lord, as we continue through this Lenten season, help us be mindful of any barriers that we might construct that separate us from embracing unconditional hope in your love for everyone and everything in your creation. Lent is the sacramental sign of our journey from slavery to freedom. It's a journey filled with hope. And I thank you for Pope Francis for reminding us about this. Amen.